every Jewish person, I think, has a place in Israel if they want to go there, whether it makes sense or not. Like if they want to and they feel that's the right thing, then go for it.
What is home? Yes, we have our homeland Israel, and yes, we have homes throughout the diaspora. But our current reality is complex. Israel's at war, and anti-Semitism is rising around the world. So what does that mean for us? What does that mean for this question of home? Join me, Izzy, as I speak with Israeli and diaspora Jewry to better understand this new complex reality and unpack where we put ourselves in this physical and spiritual war. This is the My Israel Narrative podcast. Okay, so welcome back to another episode of My Israel Narrative. We are fortunate to be sitting here with Yaakov Langer, aka Living L'Chaim. Who you've been doing amazing work even before, we've kind of been in the heat of the moment in the past couple months, just really putting out content for all of Klal Yisrael from so many different angles. And I just really, like I explained to you, wanted to sit down and see someone who really has like your pulse on the Jewish world in a way from a really interesting angle, kind of what the feedback's in, what people are thinking, what people are feeling about America, about Israel, and just bringing out, like I said, a lot of these, I think, behind the scenes conversations, bringing them to light, and just, having an open, honest kind of chat about that. So I guess just to kick things off, if you want to just share, I'd be curious just to know, like, ask you a little bit, but like how you got here, maybe a little behind the scenes for others that don't know, like how Living L'Chaim came to life.
I'd imagine 98% of your audience is like, who in the world is Yaakov Langer?
I don't think so. I think most people
do.
And I told
93%. My name is Yaakov Langer, originally from Brooklyn. And I grew up consuming a lot of, my mother always hates when I say this, but like I watched a lot of movies and TV, and I grew up in like a traditional Orthodox home. But because I was the youngest, I think I got away with, my 3 older brothers were already kind of out of the house. So I consumed a lot. And for me, I didn't realize at the time, I think it taught me a lot of just how content works in a way. I mean, obviously we're now in the age of the internet and social media and stuff like that, but it kind of taught me like what makes a good story, what makes something interesting that help retain attention. So as social media became more popular, I always loved, like Snapchat stories. Like that was my thing. Like I loved putting on a good Snapchat story. And it evolved to, all the places where you could do stories and statuses, which is like basically everywhere now. And then from there, it kind of bled into longer form, which is podcasts, which podcasts in like the non-Jewish world, I think was bigger or picking up more in like 2010 area. And it took at least the Orthodox world a while to get there. So I started in 2019, and then 2021, we started Living L'Chaim. And since then it's been, thank God, like growing very quickly. But I think it's easy in a way because I think at least we started off with creating content for the Orthodox community, which I think there was a lacking. And not slowly, I would say quickly, the rest of the world, whether they're Reformed conservative Jews or even non-Jews, were like, hey, we're enjoying the content. So it got out there more than we anticipated.
So I think I asked you this question when you first spoke. It's like a month and a half ago now, briefly.
Yeah.
What people are looking for right now? What are they craving?
Yeah, so since October 7th, I could just speak for like what kind of content we've been putting out. And I think I just tweeted out or posted out on X that we got over 530 million views on our YouTube shorts, which I know it sounds like a fake number. It's all 100% real views, all organic.
Wow.
And I think that after October 7th, it all started with Hamas putting out such terrible footage, which from a PR perspective, I think they're morons for like admitting what they did. But it was so horrible that our response was, we want to put out just positive, good, pro-Israel, pro-Jewish kind of content, which the whole world saw how much kindness and unity was going around. So that was our mission. And I personally saw how much of the world and even the Jewish people, we were craving to look for the good that was going on because there's so much darkness. and we definitely have seen so much hate. I based off of their usernames and like what they're saying, it's mainly Arabs who just do not like us, and they're saying the most vile things. Which, by the way, we delete every single one of those comments, so they could waste their time helping the algorithm show it. I think their hate is fueling. It was the thing fueling the views, as well as the people who are just appreciating it and sharing it and liking it. So I think people, at least the Jewish people in general, like we're searching for something more because of how bad things have been and still so many hostages. So we're trying to do good. I personally saw how many people, I think it was like havoc at first, like, okay, what do the soldiers need? Whatever they need Kit Kats, we're gonna send. Like, people weren't even thinking, they're like sending like a whole bag of chocolates of like before, like I think the soldiers were like, everyone slow down, like there's certain things we definitely need. We need some tactical gear and stuff like that, but like things that we don't, we appreciate it. But I think it's become a lot more organized since then.
Do you find that like you get chizuk, like strength yourself from what you're doing and what you're putting out there?
Like, good question. The answer is definitely yes. I think I am definitely a little jaded because of the volume of, at least for me, content that I'm seeing. Yeah. So there's only so much chizuk that I'll get from like these nice videos and or even the interviews that I put out, which I don't think is the answer people are looking for. It's honestly that it is the honest answer, but there is here and there, like once or twice a week, where there's a clip or something that like makes me either cry or just feel very connected. It's for me, it's more this. It's not the things I'm really putting out, but it's more the sad things going on.
Yeah.
And I get, for example, I saw yesterday there was a boy, and maybe it triggered me because he's like so close to my son's age that he's hugging a bear and like a little teddy bear that Shai Graucher got for him, and his father was murdered. He was a soldier, and the boy insisted that the teddy bear wear his father's t-shirt. And like, to me, it was so sad, also so adorable, but like it was such a weird mix, and I don't know, that was something that like hit me hard, in a bad way, because it was like, that is so sad, but also in a good way because I'm like, wow, I feel so much more connected. That like, I don't know if I would have felt that. Of course, it shouldn't have happened, but at least for me, I'm like, I'm happy that I feel so bad. Like I feel connected to someone that I clearly don't know, but it's a Jewish kid that lost his father, and
it's humanizing the whole thing.
Yeah,
and we need that, and that's also, I think, a big reason why people want. Part of what I'm trying to do as well is like put out more positivity and give it, because it's what we need right now. We know, right? The old Jewish, what do you say, Asaj or whatever it is, like, okay, we fight the darkness with light. So
right,
this is our way of doing it. So I'd ask you, like, with everything you're seeing, and obviously I think you're probably, again, seeing more than most, what are you feeling today sitting here in New York looking at everything that's happening? Like, where are you at?
Where I'm at, I'm trying to be positive, honestly, because like the Inspiration for the Nation, the podcast that I host, like I've been in very much the mode of trying to have people on that have been affected since October 7th, whether it's a soldier just coming back from Gaza, a mother of a hostage, or, you know, a father of a soldier, whatever it is. And I have so many guests that I've had on that are waiting for the episode to release. There's like a Hasidish kid who found himself nothing to do with October 7th. And he's like, hey, when's it airing? And I'm just explaining to him, I'm like, I'm not putting it out until like, Mir Hashem, this thing's Hamas is going to be done, and Mir Hashem, like, very soon. But I just don't know when that's going to be. So I'm trying to be hopeful, but there's a part of me that's a little scared of, like, how long will this last? And I do kind of sense there is some, like, I'm scared that, you know, the same way with the Ukrainian-Russian war, it's been going on for so long that I do think the general person not connected to Ukraine and Russia, and I don't think I have so much connection to either, like, it's not on my mind, really. At first, it was like that, and I'm scared, like, it's slowly not as powerful what's going on. But I'm personally so reminded by, like, there's still over 100 I don't want to say the wrong number, but like there's over 100 hostages. So that number hasn't, I mean, thank God we got a bunch back, but like that number is still a crazy high number. And there's still people out there that just for the very fact of a Jew being a Jew or a Jew living in Israel, they want to end us. Like we can't lose that passion and that energy to be like, we're still in this. We're very much in the thick of it.
So to ask you, I guess, war aside and like trying to feel connected from that angle, where does your connection lie with Israel? You can say even pre-war and now where we stand.
Yeah. So it's funny. I don't think my connection to Israel changed. I think my maybe connection to the Jewish people changed, but like I personally always loved Israel, and I fell in love with Israel when I went for yeshiva in 2010, and I was there for 4 years single, and then I went back married for 2 years. It's definitely the most magical place. I think to live a life there, especially as a Jew, like everything is magnified. So Hanukkah is beautiful in New York, but there's nothing like Hanukkah in Israel. Or if you could literally fill that in with any single Yontif, or every single day, or even Shabbos. Like there's a certain energy that people are just more focused, more tapped in. So everything's magnified. So that appreciation, that love for Israel, that hasn't shifted since October 7th. I'm still like, for me, it's like, it's the best. So like since then, like it's still the best. I do have more appreciation, I think, for like the widespread kinds of Jewish people that are out there. And maybe I've developed a little more, sensitivity for like how many different kinds of Jews there are since like I've been interviewing so many vast different kinds of Jews. Yeah. But I definitely seen like, I'm not so old, but in my 31 years, I've never seen such unity of like right before October 7th, you had people fighting over like, should there be a Yom Kippur davening in Tel Aviv? And like some people are like, no, it's terrible. And the people davening are like, what do you like? They were davening to Hashem. Like, how could you? And they're fighting each other. And then after October 7th, they're like, we're on the same team. Like, what are we doing? Like, we have our differences, but right now we have a common enemy. So to me, that's like very inspiring to see. And that's happening in all the places that there's like some form of machlokas argument between like different kinds of Jews. Like you're seeing so many of them like just get together and put their differences aside. So for me, I'm like, that's awesome. Like, that's so beautiful.
Yeah. It's also like seeing that I heard a Rav explain like, when he went to Israel, he was, just racking his brain. Like, what is it about them that is so, like, where does this resilience come from? And a lot of times we explain it by like, okay, because they've been through more, so they've just naturally, neatly built this up. And he said, really, he took it was very relevant to like where we were in the Torah that week. But he basically was saying like, the biggest thing is they understand that they're part of something bigger. So when things come, push comes to shove and they're in a situation, they're like, yeah, I could put everything aside because I have the clarity that like, this is not about me and you and our little different. This is about like something for all of Am Yisrael, of Klal Yisrael. No matter where you stand on the religious spectrum, whatever, they feel that innately so that they can go through the challenge, they can go through the differences and then still move forward and kind of see what needs to happen next.
That's very cool. We were talking before and I didn't know that you didn't grow up Orthodox. Mm-hmm. Is this like, should we not talk about this?
No, we could totally talk about it.
Okay, so from your perspective and I don't know how you grew up, but what has it been like for you? Because you had your, I guess, impression of like the Jewish people in the sense of not being Orthodox and now being Orthodox, and especially since October 7th and you actually living in Israel, like what is that? Has there been a shift? And if so, like what has that been like?
That's a great question. I think... So I grew up very traditional. Grew up like in a Sephardi home, Persian. We were very connected to our roots, Shabbat, holidays.
Yeah, by the way, it's someone who's Sephardi who's like traditional. Like to me, like they, not always, but like very often, like they daven way better than like someone like me from like Flatbush who like, it's very interesting. Like the Emunah B'tachon is like very present.
Yeah,
has a lot of presence there. Yeah,
I have one of my grandfathers. I always say, to this day, should rest in peace. He was more religious than I will ever be.
Wow,
and he didn't keep Shabbat. Never did business on Shabbat. And they that was even when they came to America, had zero money to their name and could have, gotten a huge business deal. It didn't matter. They didn't touch it on Shabbat. Wow. But they did other things, whatever. But his emunah on Hashem, I always said, when I started becoming religious, I started spending a lot of Shabbatot in my grandparents' home. So we'd eat there for dinner, and usually I wouldn't sleep over, but then I started staying over and whatever. So I would see them in their day-to-day. And he would wake up, especially in his like last few years, and he would literally just open the front door, look outside and look up and just genuinely from the bottom of his heart, thank Hashem.
Wow.
Like I'm looking at your thank you Hashem sticker. You know, I stare at those and I'm like, thank you Hashem. Thank you, Hashem.
Yeah,
but
they're
like
great. Big fans of
they're
Thank You,
amazing. But he really felt it. So I grew up with that as like the undercurrent of my Judaism and my understanding of something bigger. I never actually thought about God so clearly until I started becoming religious. But we were traditional, very connected to Israel. Like the Persian community in general is very, very Zionistic. Depends, we could talk about even just defining what that means, but super connected. Today, like beyond. So all of that was like the seeds were already there. But like, you know, we had our shchuna, we had our neighborhood, we had where we were, everything was, and I really still now from like my own the Persian community has become, you know, a lot of people that have become more observant. From my more like immediate circle, I'm kind of an outlier in a lot of ways. Making Aliyah as like a single Persian girl, it's not really a thing. But I kind of just had this like burning, I don't know, connection, desire to be in Israel, to be like at the center of where the Jewish people are. And like, I find that in terms of how my Yiddishkeit presents itself, I find that when I'm in Israel, it's the most authentic because I don't have anyone watching me. When I'm here, everyone's watching me. So, oh, does she wear, you know, a shirt now, Pastor Elvis? And they're like, nobody's looking at me. I dress the way I want. I keep Shabbat the way I want. I have the friends, like all my friends look different than me. I mean, we're okay, observant to some extent, but like we all look very different. Always joke, like all my friends, a lot of them, Baruch Hashem, married now, like they all married very different kinds of guys. Like, you just do your thing there. So over time, I think as I was trying to build my own Jewish identity, I found like, okay, if I really want to be able to do that and tap into it in the most authentic way, like I found that in Israel. And I still wish, I'm back in New York and we'll see where things go. But to me, that's like, you said it yourself, like that's the best. Like it's the best because you can just be your best self, I think, in so many facets.
So how's it, did it shift for you since
October 7th?
Yeah.
So now I feel, first of all, I mean, having religion in the context of what's happening right now I find very comforting.
Right.
Doesn't mean I have the answers. I don't. I'm like, you know, every other person on the street. I'm looking for them. So I'm having all these conversations and speaking to people in Rebbeim and what, because I want to know. I don't want to just sit here and pretend like everything is, I'm going to wait until, you know, the day after and say, oh, hopefully, you know, I'll keep doing the good davening I was doing when things were hard. No, like there's questions to be asked right now. Like the world is changing, the world is shifting. So it's pushed me into this like question mode very much so. I was very black and white when I made Aliyah 3 years ago. I said, I'm making Aliyah. If you can, you should be living in Israel. There's no question. I subsequently decided to leave Israel even before the war. It just happened to all happen around the same timing that I left. And that created also a whole new frame of like, wait, so I'm not living in Israel now.
Hold on. When we did the whatever it was, Zoom or whatever a month ago, weren't you in Israel? You were here?
I was in America. I came
in
back.
My head. I'm like, you're sitting in Rehavia, like doing this.
I was sitting in LA actually, but
okay, so we're in the same exact time zone. Okay,
but no, I was already back. I left like 2 days after everything started.
Didn't know that. Didn't realize. Or maybe you said it, and now I'm just remembering wrong. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I just went back last week briefly, but cool. Kind of seeing what's up. But for now, it looks like I'm here, and that created like a whole other. Now there's like, it's like, I didn't leave there because there's a war. Like, I don't think it's more dangerous there. Anyone who looks at me and says like, it's more safe in America, I'm like, I don't know what news you're watching, but like everything.
Because I think America, like it's always been like this. Unfortunately, like Israel is not to this extent, but they've always had attacks. And like America, like when I was in yeshiva, like there were rockets at that point, like 2014, and like everyone in America were like, "You're not scared." And like when you're there, you're like, "It's totally fine." It's just when you're in America or you grow up in America, like it's for sure giving that sense. At least it feels like you're more safe because you don't really hear about crazy things that are happening. But like there, like someone gets stabbed and like everyone's like, "Okay, everyone's in danger now." Like no, you have to be cautious and stuff, but it's definitely a very safe place for the Jewish people.
Yeah. I mean, I think also what's changed for me since October 7th is this narrative of trying to figure out where's safer, where am I, and really trusting. And like, this is where I feel very blessed that I have religion at play. And like, I try and have a strong relationship with God is like, I really just trust that he's taking me where I need to go. Like, if you ask me right now, where do I want to be? My heart, like a lot of me just wants to be in Israel. It's where I feel the most alive and all these things, but where do I need to be? It's here. So it's letting myself just like be okay with that duality, but then at the same token, bringing up a lot of questions and inner dialogue and just trying to figure out, okay, so I'm needed here, but I believe in living there as a Jew. but that's not where Hashem wants you right now. So like,
Yeah, sounds like you
what's
have a big inner battle over here. Like,
yeah,
what?
but like at the same token, I don't think I'm the only one. I think maybe, it's a little unique in terms of the fact that I've lived there and now I've chosen to come back and whatever. But I think I'm hearing a lot of people kind of bringing up this question, like, are we supposed to be making Aliyah now? Are we, I see people in Israel almost every day. I see something on Instagram. Please get out before you have to run. From people looking over there and we're looking at the news and seeing the rockets. They're looking at the news and seeing these protests and all these things. Look, I walk out of my house in New York City. I cannot go a day at this point without seeing some graffiti. I mean, in the most random places. You just see Gaza, Palestine, free Palestine, IDF kills, everywhere.
Right.
It's in my face. So I see it. I feel it. And because I've been on both sides, it's like very clear to me that like this is not just like, something to brush under the rug. But at the same token, yeah, I don't know. Is the answer just to pick up and go? Is the answer to be stronger and stay here?
Are you talking out loud or you're asking that question?
I'm asking myself, asking you.
Oh yeah, I have no clue what the answer is. Legitimately, it's funny. I think there's like, I'm gonna label and do all the things that aren't like PC, but like I think in like where I grew up, and we'll call that like, I don't know what to call it, like the yeshivish, maybe Litvish kind of world. In yeshiva, in school, even in our homes, it was always that like, Israel's the best. It's great, but there was never a underlying pressure or push to like having to live there. Like if you want to live there, amazing. But if you want to stay here in America, that was also like great. And I do see that my friends from the modern Orthodox world, they always have some, if they're in America, there's a guilt. They're like,
really?
Yeah, I'm not in Israel though. And
a guilt or like a wanting to be there?
Both. But wow. I think both. I mean, it depends if you're being pessimistic or optimistic. But like there's a guilt and also a desire, and of course it whatever I'm saying, that you have to do whatever's obviously the best for you ultimately. But there's always that underlying feeling of like, I'm not complete unless I'm living there. Where and I'm a little jealous of that, honestly. I don't feel that. And I lived there. I loved living there. And I'm just telling you how I feel. I don't know if it's the right way. I don't feel bad about living in America.
I don't think there's what to feel. I used to think people should feel bad about wanting to
live
in America.
Oh man, it was the worst. When you go to meals, when I go to a meal, like I like here and there, you go to meals like people in Eretz Yisrael, like whatever, you get connected, and like I don't know what the right answer is, but definitely like making people like feel pressured and bad by the Shabbos meal of like you're just like a yeshiva guy eating it, and they're like telling you like you guys have to stay here no matter what, and like in a very, to me, toxic way. I'm like, I don't know if this is the best like PR for like moving to Israel.
Yeah, I always say I went to a seminary that they did very like latent push for making Aliyah. So what they did was they would just take us all around Israel to all different, communities and towns and think religious, not really, whatever. It showed us like the whole scope. And they would take us to like alumni, and the alumni would speak to us and share why they made this step. But they would never once like say actively like, you guys should make Aliyah. So I sat there, I was after college at that point, so I was like 21, 22. And I remember just thinking to myself like, okay, message received, like I'll be back. In my mind, it was like, I'll get married, I'll come. I had like a whole plan. Okay, Hashem made another plan for me. But there was never a guilt. It was just like, I'm going to show you the beauty of what Israel is, and then like come and take it if you want it. And I feel very blessed because when I made Aliyah, there was a little bit of like a push away from America. Like I moved in COVID. So this was December 2020. And there was all the riots happening in New York and all around the country, really, whatever. And I was just like, oh my God, this is not where I'm looking to like try and build a home and raise a family. Like I don't want to live on this value system, like by any means. So there was the push initially, and then there was like, okay, yeah, and like Israel is where I feel whole. I also really was like just taken aback by the fact that as a Jew I couldn't go to Israel. Like at the time, like the borders were closed.
Right,
I'm like, I'm getting a passport. Like I'm doing anything to get a passport. That was like my goal at the time. And I went there with just this like notion of, okay, looking to my future, like where do I want to build? Where do I want to be my fullest, truest self? And what I think can provide that for me. And I know it was Israel. And in that moment, it still kind of feels like it is.
Are your parents supportive of it?
No.
No.
I mean, off the record, on the record. But they're
No, I mean, first of all, there's a shift between you becoming Orthodox, but then also I don't know where their passion for living in Israel is, and like I would have imagined that like it's not something they probably want you close, you know, on a very normal personal level, like they want their daughter close. That makes sense.
They very much so, and we very much we have these conversations at the dinner table. Recently, they've gotten more intensified about me kind of saying, so no, like, you think we're like sticking around here? Like, what do you think is happening? I came home from Israel 2 months ago, and I was like, okay, so you guys were like getting ready to go, right? Like we're all on the same page, and they all looked at me. They're like, what? Like, what is wrong with you? Like, everyone's just like, you're home safe, just stay put. But still, 2 months later, people are telling me, I'm so glad you got out of there. You're home safe. I'm like, I'm not. We're not on the same wavelength. But the big picture, my parents are supportive in the sense like they want us very, very lucky. They want us to be happy, and they let us do what's good for us.
That's amazing.
But for sure, I come from a very like at the end of the day traditional community, traditional background. And it's like, yeah, why are you going to leave your family? Like, makes no sense.
I know in the Syrian community that at least for the guys, they get married and they live like down the block from their parents. I don't know if that's true in the Persian community also.
Not as much.
Because the Syrians, like I'm from Brooklyn, it's becoming like basically Syrian because all the Syrians that grew up there, like they're just extending and growing because they're all living right near their parents.
It's a beautiful thing. Like I was actually just having this conversation before I came here with a mentor, and she was also speaking about the Syrian community in particular, and saying that a big reason why the community, she thinks or feels from what she's read and heard and seen, doesn't want to go to Israel or be in Israel, as an example, is because they have such a foundation here that, and when you pluck someone out of the community, then so where do you find your footing? And that's a big challenge of being in Israel. Like you go there and okay, it's a beautiful thing. We're all brothers and sisters, but what does that mean? There's not as many micro communities. You have to like really work for it, or you have to move to a, very specific, particular kind of place and hope that you can fit in. It's not like you come and you have the 5 towns and you have Great Neck and you have Brooklyn, and it's a big challenge. So Chutzlar, it's outside of Israel, actually brings such a beauty to this notion of community and closeness to your family and all these things that is harder to tap into. Right. When you're abroad, it's really in Israel in particular. So you're very like you see yourself here, and obviously you're doing. I always say to people, like, wherever you are, you have to make sure you have a mission, like you're doing something. It's not just me saying this. It's what I've learned and what.
I could come up with every excuse why like me living here makes more sense. Like just with living l'chaim at this point, I think with what we're trying to do, the base that we have, but I don't even know. Like I feel like if I could kind of twist it the other way and be like, oh, I could make it work in Israel also. So I don't honestly know what the real answer is. But yeah, the way I'm envisioning it is like, yeah, this is where I'm at. I try to believe that Mashiach is coming very soon. So I'll be kicking myself and be like, I should have bought real estate in Israel. Not that I like monetarily can, but I'm in hopes that I'll be living in Israel very soon with the coming of Mashiach. So that's how I look at it now. Yeah. But I don't think I think about it so much.
For me, I'll tell you, like I love this because it's interesting to me that people aren't thinking about it. Like that's
to me, it sounds like you think about this like every day, like 17 times. Right.
I do. Yeah. Nonstop.
I don't think about it at all. I mean, I think about a lot of other stuff, but yeah. No, I don't know. Maybe it's a bad thing. To me, it's like one of the 613 mitzvahs, and like it's beautiful. It's amazing. And so is mitzvah, like tzitzis and tefillin and davening and learning.
Right. I guess.
And shluch hakan. I don't know. I think throw something in there. It's not as common.
I almost got to do that. It's the thing with the bird, no? No?
It's chasing away the mother bird.
The mother bird, yeah. I had a nest I had a pomegranate tree. And it was like just randomly out of the dirt, there was a pomegranate tree right outside my window. And there was a nest there for a while. But
it's so complicated. It has to be a kosher, or whatever. I don't know.
We bypassed.
It gives a long life though, so.
Well, there was actually 2, so I've bypassed a long life 2 times. So hopefully.
Wow.
I don't know.
Okay, you'll live into like 360 or something like that.
I was gonna ask you. So then I'll tell you why. One reason why, like, the question comes back, because 2 things. Right now, in the context of what's happening, so I see it as like, yeah, Israel's at war, but like, we believe it's ours, we believe it's eternally ours, and if we believe we're so close to Mashiach, God willing, okay, or this just time where things are actually, if you're not so into the Mashiach lingo, just gonna be, you know, more at ease, more at peace. So like, that's it. Like, we know we're gonna have Israel, and we know it's the best place, so why not be there? And also on top of that, before, okay, feeling any like urgency maybe to not be in a quote unquote more unsafe place like America or anywhere in Chutzarts, like we call Israel the homeland. So like, what does that actually mean? Like, how do we reconcile that? Like, we're called Bnei Yisrael, like children of Israel. Everything for us goes back to there.
I mean, yeah, I don't know.
It's
I don't
like-
know. These are good questions. I mean, Bnei Yisrael, you could be like, well, the children of
Right.
Israel,
Yeah.
not the place per se that's named after Yaakov. But as you're thinking, like saying it, I'm like, why is Israel called Yisrael? Like from like, I don't know, why is it not called Yitzchak? I don't know. Just question out loud. Anyone who has an idea, leave in the comments below. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know the answer. I do know, like, logistically, it's not as simple as you're making it, because if imagine everyone's like, you know what? That's so true. Now, every single person from everywhere in America and France and Canada or wherever else, I think Jews are everywhere, like where we're living, would all try to go there. That logistically, I don't think could work as of now, unless there's a miracle. But then there's also like there definitely are complications. It says, like, you know, moving to Israel comes with certain like challenges. I think that's a Gemara. I'm not sure, but like I do think that's true. I even felt that when I was there for, again, I didn't know the extent of how long it would be. I honestly wish it was longer, but I was there for 2 years, married. It was so hard to like acclimate and like get, and it was good. It was set up. I was blessed to, like, my parents and in-laws helped us like live, like I was blessed, but still it was so hard, like getting our nona, like the,
Oof.
you know, like it was
Did
so.
you ever go to the office? It's a lot of fun.
Yes,
It's a lot
I
of
went
fun.
multiple times, and they would, whatever. It was honestly just very difficult. That's like getting in Israel. The way it works is if you're renting, you're responsible for the taxes, as opposed to America, where if you're renting, you're not responsible for the taxes, for the real estate. And that's just like one example, but like I do think it's also like, I don't know if it's the elephant in the room. I don't know if people talk about it, but like I do see that like American children that move there, it's very hard to like get in. It's like a different culture, right? An Israeli kid and an American kid. There's pluses and minuses on either side, but if for an Israeli kid to move to America, for an American kid to move to Israel, it's not so simple. And I commend anyone who's like, I want to live in Israel, and they go there. But logistically, like, it's not so simple. So, you know, I don't know. In my cards, or at least how I was brought up, and I'm not saying I don't know what the right thing is, but it's not like a staple of like I have to do this. Like, how I was taught, maybe, like, I don't know. I don't know if like where I grew up, it was like the homeland. It was like, no, this is our country. This is our place. To be there is a beautiful mitzvah. And if you could, and if you can't, go visit, go support, like, for sure. But live your life to be a light onto the nations from everywhere, technically. But I think it's maybe like the argument of like Yosef versus Yehuda, and like,
Which is, I don't know.
Yosef and Yehuda is like very like basic in the Torah. Is there's brothers, they're fighting, and Yaakov's favoring Yosef. The other brothers are unhappy, and they try killing him, and they sell him, and then he goes to Egypt and goes and helps the entire Egypt, and then they come down, and he does this whole plot to them to trick them into thinking they're getting captured, and then he says, I'm Yosef, and the brothers, you know, right before that, Yehuda. That's like the basic, but like the more mystical underlying fight going on is like Yosef is representing this idea of the role of a Jew is to go out into the world, not just to stay in Israel, to go to Egypt, go to the places of the most Tuma, the most darkest places, and we have to be a light. While Yehuda is saying, no, like, our role is to stay in Israel, and self-reflection. And in the parshas we see, you know, even Yosef and Yehuda both having a challenge with like another woman, and Yosef actually succeeds and runs away, and Yehuda's the one who kind of falls into it. And in the end, it wasn't really, whatever, he thought he was doing something bad. It wasn't really bad, but either way, that like fight of should a Jew stay in Israel and that's where they'll be the light unto nations or not. It's kind of the battle, and like it's kind of hard to know who's right. Like which, I don't know. To me, it's like they're both right. Like there's different roles for different Jews. We know when Mashiach comes, there's gonna be Mashiach ben Yosef comes first, who's gonna like gather in everyone and then ultimately Mashiach ben David, which is from Yehuda, will be the everlasting Mashiach. So ultimately, that idea of like Jews in Israel is gonna last, but I don't think we're there yet. So I don't know. I think that's the
No, I think
battle.
I think having a balanced view of it is a good place to be. I happen to be someone who was like just swung on many sides of the spectrum, and even though I'm pushing right now and saying, well, you're not thinking about living in Israel, look what's happening here. I still doesn't mean that that's my MO.
Clearly now you're not even living there now. Exactly.
Yeah. I've chosen to come back. I went back 2 weeks ago at the end of Hanukkah, very briefly, and I was giving I give both my passports to the law guy, and they start speaking to me in Hebrew initially, and then I always am like with these security questions, I'm already nervous. So I'm like, can you please just switch to English? Like I'm gonna mess up. So he's like, no, and then they get curious, like, what, you don't even speak Hebrew, but you were living there. No. So he's asking this question. I said, yeah, just so that he like had no suspicion. I'm like, I made Aliyah 3 years ago. And he goes, you gave up. And I looked at him, I said, then I told someone the story. They said, what is he saying? He's the Allah security guy sitting in New York, in New York airport, and you gave up. He's the one over here. So I said, I didn't give up, but this is a call of the hour. This is where I need to be. So I definitely... I'm thinking what you're saying, like Yosef like knew like he had to go and do a mission elsewhere. So it's the same thing. Like if you're going to be in Israel, actually a few people said to me, they're like, I actually think it would have been irresponsible of you to stay in Israel in this time. Said, really? Interesting. Even though my choice to leave was a little bit separate from what's happening, but their take was like, if you're going to be there and you're just like another citizen and they have to take care, and you have no family there, no support system, I wasn't contributing. I was working at the time for a nonprofit that is doing a lot in the war effort and all this stuff, but I could do it from here. There was nothing specific to me being in Israel.
I don't know. I think that's extreme. I think that's very extreme. Like, I disagree with that. I think no, if you want to live in Eretz Yisrael, go live there. Like, whether you're going to, in quotes, mooch off, which you weren't, but I'm saying, and even if you were.
It's hard to mooch off the Israelis.
No, but I'm saying, but like, it's like no, every Jewish person, I think, has a place in Israel if they want to go there, whether it makes sense or not. Like if they want to and they feel that's the right thing, then go for it. And yeah,
no, I saw that for myself. I saw when I initially went and it felt right, so I had a place. And then when it started to like not feel so right, so again, separate of what's happening in the moment, like I just didn't have my place. So it was like, okay, and I think I have more of a place here. So it was actually new to me, and the like more recent, I don't know, say like 5-6 months of speaking with more people, that like even within the religious community that there is this dialogue of like, yeah, like we love Israel and we support it, like what you're explaining a little bit, like that, as someone who like didn't grow up in this world, like I was like, really? Well, I thought that was just like what you do, like you like you like being a Jew and you want to go live that out, so where's the place to do it? Israel.
Orthodox Judaism is so nuanced. It's wild. And I think, again, I don't know, and I have a lot of Hasidic friends, but like I would think they feel that lack of mission to live in Israel even more. I think, not all, but I think that, again, I don't know why that played out the way it did. I'm not sure. That you need more of like David Bashafkanon or something like that. I'll give you a good reason.
I think big picture is, if at the end of the day you can find your footing and you feel like, I think there was a long time that people, especially from the outside looking in, like from Israel maybe looking in here, felt that people live in Chutzar because it's cushier and it has all of the materialistic things, and yeah, we definitely have gotten distracted by a lot of that. I'm not gonna lie, like when I'm here, the way like I like see things and feel, it's very different than when I'm in Israel. Like in Israel I could just go and like shut it all off and like don't care.
That's one of America's problem. America is like part of the Asa world where it's like materialism. It's things and stuff and cars and food and things that you think about, you're like, this doesn't really matter. Like, what are we doing? So definitely a challenge that us Americans have.
It's a challenge, but I think for a long time it was used as the narrative as to why people don't go to Israel, or it's like a big reason because they can't have, that's something you would give up by going there. But there's like so many things before that including having a mission elsewhere, feeling connected to where you are, having your family, having your community, all these things that we're talking about that give people a reason to say, no, like, this is where I need to be. Like, that's not it. Yeah. Okay. While I'm here, I'm enjoying the abundance and the shefa that's around me. I'll tell you what, Israel just in the past 5 years is like a whole different ballgame in terms of like what's there.
I think it's worse off, honestly.
Really? More?
Yeah, because there was always something nice about Israel of like being more disconnected from the materialism.
Sure. Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. I think it's becoming easier for an American, and maybe that's one of the benefits of like American to adapt there. But ultimately, like, that's the beauty of, I think that's why so many people are so focused on God, religion, and just everything of that sort there, because they don't have as many distractions. Now, do they have Amazon now? I remember, like,
it comes and goes. But
right.
Currently, the current moment, yes, you can order Amazon.
So when I was there, they were talking about it, and like, there was something so nice about, like, if you want something, like from whichever company or Amazon, like, you have to have someone send it to you, and you're like, is this really that worth it? And like, how much do we actually need it? It was nice. Again, I'm like putting my money where my mouth is. I like rely on Amazon so much, but it's one of the beauties of Israel. So the more upgraded it gets, it's a plus and a minus. Yeah.
I think the saddest upgrade that I've seen that really makes me sad is you walk down, it's cool in a way, but you walk down Yaakov Street in Yerushalayim now, and it's just like sky rises, like literal like skyscrapers. Like, it's not all Jerusalem stone anymore. Like, yeah, totally. I mean, I guess they're waiting for, a lot of people to make moves, but it's shifted. So for better and for worse.
I was there in November, and it was so many places. I forgot what it's called when they fatten the building and make it like add extra.
Oh, Tama.
Yeah.
Like
so like
project? Yeah.
I think it was Ramat Eshkol, and I'm like, the same feeling of like, this feels more like a city than like this like cute, like awesome place to live. And again, I understand the benefit. More people can live there. People that are living there, it's bigger, but ultimately, yeah, it's a good way to put a sad upgrade.
Okay, so I have one more question, and you can feel free to throw in another if you want. But I just like to open or close. But just this question of, for you, if you had to describe home in a few sentences, what comes to mind? And you don't have to use Israel in the answer. I feel like I need to add that in.
That's a good question. Home. Never thought about this before. I don't know why the word home is in like so many songs. Maybe because like it's like emotionally hits people in a certain way. Home is a place that you feel comfortable and you could always go back to no matter what. I think that's a good answer.
It's a great answer. Should I do the survey says Steve
well,
Harvey.
How do you describe it? And I don't know if people asked you that.
Yeah, actually it's true. I don't think I've answered it myself.
Okay, so there you go.
On record.
Question flip back to you.
Yeah, I think home is where I feel like my fullest, most wholesome self and feel supported and
does it shift? Like, is your answer? I think you would have said Israel, but like, is now your home America, or you don't feel like you're at home?
So right now I feel like I have two homes.
Two homes, okay.
When I'm surrounded by my family here, I feel so at home, and it's a feeling I can't get when I'm there, and it's the feeling. It's what drove me back. Which
is interesting because like home, I wouldn't. I mean, I totally understand your answer, like, but you're saying home isn't necessarily connected to a place. It's kind of like by people.
So on one end of my definition, yeah, but then I also feel that Israel is the only place physically that gives me that feeling. Like in America, like when I'm here, it's contingent on who I'm surrounded by. So for me, like the perfect scenario is my family wants to come to the physical place that I feel the most at home. And it's been this tug and pull, especially in the past few years, of like, well, okay, now I need this in my life. Well, now I need this in my life. And I strongly believe like the home, the place where like I can be that most wholesome, purposeful, strong self is physically in the land of Israel. But sometimes I need the support, and that's not there for me right now.
All you need is just have your family move to Israel.
Yeah, I'll give you their number.
Yeah, I'll just call them.
You can work
be like,
on
she feels so much better if you live there. And they're like, oh yeah, sure. Where should we move? Baga? Okay, let's go there.
Yeah, but they know the real the real what do you call it? The real chip right now is just wanting to be with family. That's the truth.
Right.
So, we'll see. There's a plan.
Okay. Very nice.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very, very much.
Thank
Appreciate
you.
the time and the insights, and hope it was cool to be on the other side of the.
Yeah, it's definitely hard for
thing.
me, but it's definitely a cool experience.
Thanks for listening to another episode of My Israel Narrative. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure to follow along and subscribe. Until next time, I'm Yisrael Chai.